welcome to today's DataVox webinar, Stopping Breaches During and Beyond COVID-19, presented by Crowdstrike. My name is Jessica, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this webinar through Cisco WebEx events, and the audio can be heard through your PC or by calling into the phone number listed and with the access code provided in your confirmation email or calendar invite for this event. Today's webinar is being recorded on behalf of DataVox, and participation in this event indicates your consent to being included in that recording. All attendees will receive an email with a link to the completed recording 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you have questions for the presenter at any time during this presentation, you may submit those questions via the Q&A feature to the bottom right of your screen. This should already be turned on. Simply click Q&A and the text box will appear. Our panel will be responding to these questions throughout the presentation via text and verbally at the conclusion of the presentation. If you are in need of support or have a question not pertaining to today's topic, please utilize the chat feature and I will be happy to assist you. This feature is separate from the Q&A feature and can be turned on by clicking the chat bubble in the lower center of your screen. Now that we have reviewed the features of this webinar, we would like to start off today's presentation with a few words from our VP of Sales, Greg Smith. Greg, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jessica. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining on the webinar today. If you've attended past webinars, I really appreciate you coming back. If it's your first webinar with us, I hope you enjoy it and I hope you want to come back. We were forced into kind of going down the road with the webinar stuff when we first entered into the work from home and the COVID situation, really not knowing exactly how it'd be received from our customers, but we wanted to stay in front of them and continue to deliver value to our customers. And it's been very successful, very well received from our customers and others that have joined the webinar. So really appreciate it. Really appreciate your participation. Appreciate the interactiveness with the Q&A as we go through it, and any feedback you can give us after the fact. So thank you for joining. Today we're here with Crowdstrike, who's a leader in the cybersecurity space. The cybersecurity industry has obviously grown by leaps and bounds over the last handful of years, and it's had to evolve so rapidly. The technology has had to evolve so rapidly to keep pace with the cyber criminals out there. The vulnerabilities and the risk and the financial risk to organizations is so great now that just can't be ignored. And so the landscape and the partners that are involved in the cybersecurity space has just also grown substantially over the years. And it's kind of interesting. A few years ago, we supported a number of security partnerships in the past, but you started to hear new names that were popping up in the landscape, and it wasn't your traditional, today we're focused on endpoints, but it wasn't your traditional endpoint providers that customers in the market was talking about. It wasn't your Trend Micros or your McAfee's. It was these new names that you hadn't heard of before that were really coming to market with next generation capability and new technology that was really making an impact on the vulnerability to organizations. And so a few years ago, we set out on a journey. I told our lead cybersecurity analyst to go out in the marketplace, evaluate all the top tier endpoint solutions, and come back and make a recommendation as to what he thought was the absolute best product in the market space to help us prevent customers and ourselves from being breached. And we went through a process about 3 to 6 months of evaluating solutions, benchmarking them in tests in our labs, throwing malware at them, ethical hacking techniques, and all those types of things. And at the end of it, a recommendation was made internally that we needed to partner with Crowdstrike. And so we partnered with Crowdstrike. The relationship has been extremely successful. Customers rave about the solution. We've implemented it internally in our environments to help us stop breaches, and it's done a wonderful job in that capacity as well. And as a managed services provider, we're actually a very at-risk organization, and so it's very important to us. And so the partnership's been great. Over a period of time, Crowdstrike has become the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, so it's nice to see the consulting firms agreeing with what our evaluation was of the platform. And so that's been very good as well. And so as we go through it today, you'll learn a lot more about it. Not only is it just incredible technology, the way that it's delivered from the cloud, the ease of delivery and support in stopping breaches, but it's also the surrounding services that go around it to help monitor and help you remediate things when they should come up. So as you're doing an evaluation, make sure you not only tune into the technology, but you also think about the surrounding services that go into it. So with that, we're over to Owen and Crowdstrike to tell us a little more.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. And I'm going to go ahead and share out my screen here and get a slide share up. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. I greatly appreciate your time and willingness to spend some time with Crowdstrike and understand who we are and what exactly it is that we do. I'll do a quick intro on myself. My name is Owen Burns, and I represent the professional services team here at Crowdstrike. I spend the bulk majority of my day helping clients respond to incidents. We triage incidents, we perform forensic investigations, and we provide reports back to clients and tell them how breaches happened. We also perform strategic advisory services like tabletop exercises, maturity assessments, gap analysis, to help our clients provide or perform better in the future in terms of hardening their security and hardening their posture. And then we also manage the Falcon platform on behalf of our clients. And that's what we call Falcon Complete. I will be touching on the technology itself today, but I will be mostly focusing on how we operationalize this technology on behalf of our clients and how we help our clients see value out of Falcon from a long-term perspective. I'll move forward here into the first slide. Excuse me. I thought this was a good slide to share up front here, as we are all locked down and COVID, and this just was seemed to be pertinent to share right now. But the key point here is that breaches are everywhere, and we are stopping breaches on behalf of our clients regardless of where their endpoints are. What I mean by that is nothing has changed for Crowdstrike in terms of the protection that we provide for our clients. We don't need to be on a corporate network. Clients do not need to log into a VPN. So for many of our clients who have shifted from thousands of endpoints on one local network to thousands of endpoints on standalone home networks, nothing has changed. We still have our Falcon agent deployed through the cloud. We still deliver our technology and in the same amount of efficacy with our technology. And our managed service team is still able to manage those agents on behalf of clients regardless of their location, regardless of whether or not they're logged in with their family and their kids and their dogs. We still provide the same outcome. I'm going to walk into why we actually built a managed service on top of the Falcon platform. Crowdstrike has been in the market since 2011 as a technology company, and we built out Falcon Complete in 2017. Why did we do it? Well, even Falcon, as great of a tool as it is, requires additional management and additional usage from our client base outside of just the acquisition of the technology. Everybody that we speak with in some way, shape, or form wants some kind of set it and forget it technology. Unfortunately, in the world of security, it just is not a feasible approach to purchase a technology, set it up, and forget about it, even if we're talking about the Falcon platform. We have to properly implement and configure the tools. We have to properly manage and update those tools. And once we've done those things, well, now we're tasked with monitoring and triaging alerts, whether they be false positives, true positives, you name it. It still requires somebody to step away from whatever it is they're doing and take care of the alert itself. Once we have confirmed a true positive, well, now we're stepping into the world of responding to an incident. For most of our client base, incident response means they're going to pull the endpoint off of the network, they're going to reimage the device, and they'll throw it back on the network later. All of this costs time, all of it costs business money. We want to avoid that cost altogether by managing incidents for you, triaging incidents for you as a team. The rest of this slide, or everything on this slide, is focused on the bottom line here, and that is the cost of a data breach. People call Crowdstrike because we stop breaches. The cost of a data breach is crippling to a business, whether it be insurance claims, legal fees, the cost of contracting a firm like Crowdstrike for incident response. This is a cost we want to avoid altogether, and we do it by implementing the tool for you and responding to incidents on your behalf. The second reason that we built out this service is the staffing gap. Whether it be a large enterprise or a small, medium business or anywhere in between, we typically see some level of skills shortage when it comes to cybersecurity. Even if there is a dedicated SOC, that dedicated SOC is typically inundated with alerts, speeds, and feeds. In the small, medium business or corporate space, we talk with folks who have maybe one or two IT staff altogether, let alone any security analysts or any dedicated security professionals. We understand this gap very well at CrowdStrike, but more importantly, adversaries understand this gap. We focus on adversary behavior first and foremost, and adversaries typically target environments after hours, in the middle of the night, on the weekends, or during U.S. holidays. When it's 12 o'clock when it's 12 o'clock midnight here in the U.S., it's just about 12 noon in Russia. So the point is here, it is essential to have a 24/7 operation, not only from a tools perspective, but from a monitoring perspective. Having eyes on glass, having hands on keyboard is essential so that adversaries are not able to exploit you while you're not looking. The point here is we provide a 24/7 function, a turnkey version of Falcon. And what I'll do next is walk you through the actual technology itself, how we differentiate ourselves in the market from a technology perspective, and then I'll walk into how we operationalize this service on behalf of our clients on a long-term partnership basis. First and foremost, I'll differentiate between CrowdStrike and other managed service providers, or MDRs. Now, I'm strictly focusing on the endpoint here. I want to make that very clear. We manage Falcon, and we manage Falcon only. We do that because we think we can provide the most value as far as stopping breaches go from an endpoint perspective. People do not have to make calls to legal firms. People do not have to make calls to their insurance company if a user clicked on a link or if an open port on a network has been exploited. They do have to make those calls when somebody makes their way down to the endpoint and encrypts data or exfiltrates data. That is what we are standing in the way of. That is why we focus on the endpoint only. Now, what you see here on the screen is the funnel model in which most security operations centers function. They will take alerts, they'll take logs, they'll put them in one place, most likely a SIM, which is a great technology, but not something that CrowdStrike provides. They filter and stack rank alerts within the security operations center. We recognize two fundamental gaps in this model that we address with the Falcon Complete service. The first of which is the concept of filtering out noise. Coming from the incident response practice, I can say confidently that in almost 90% plus of the incident response engagements that we work, when we do dig into a tool set or dig into the logs in a local environment, the initial indicator of attack or indicator of compromise was there. It just wasn't flagged as high severity by a tool set, therefore it was filtered out as noise. So while the organization had the alert, they ignored it because it wasn't stack ranked appropriately. So the first gap that we address is this concept of filtering out noise. We won't do it for you. What I mean is we look at every single alert within the console the same way, regardless of its severity. We won't stack rank them. We will look at everything the same way. The second gap that we address is the outcome that we provide as a service provider. By that, I mean remediation. And I'll point back to the concept of a breach in the middle of the night or an incident in the middle of the night. If in the middle of the night a tool set kicks off and you do not have a 24/7 team, it typically means that an on-call model is being engaged. Somebody has to get up out of bed. Somebody has to derail a good night of sleep and go take care of an alert. In our model, what we're able to do is not only analyze and triage these alerts, but we are able to reach out to your device, perform remediation tasks, surgically remove the adversary and their persistence mechanisms from your environment, and provide you with a report on how we did it. So the emails that you receive from CrowdStrike are not homework items or asks of your team in terms of remediation. They are actual deliverable outcomes that tell you how we did remediation for you. So in summary, the two gaps that we address here are looking at every alert the same way. We're not filtering out noise, and we're actually providing remediation for our clients. We're not providing expensive homework items. I want to make note of the fact that this has not changed in the age of COVID. As I mentioned earlier, because we are a cloud-based solution, this same concept has applied steadfast throughout the last 4 or 5 months. how long has it been now? I'm not even sure. I'm not sure the last time I left my house. But as I move forward here, I'll talk about the technology itself and how we operationalize the technology for you. This slide gives you a breakdown of the modules that the Falcon Complete team manages on behalf of our clients. But first, I'll take a step back and give you a quick walkthrough, a high-level understanding of the architecture of this platform. This is one agent, one user interface that stands up all the functionality that you see here on the screen. At CrowdStrike, we consider ourselves to be the pioneers of this model, the cloud-based security platform. Our CEO and founder, George Kurtz, likes to refer to our service as the Salesforce of security. It all comes in the same place. It all comes within the same user interface. The deployment looks like this. It is a 40 megabyte agent that we deploy to the kernel level of your device. Windows, Mac, and Linux are supported, and we typically will push this software out with whatever software deployment tool you use today. On Windows, we see SCCM, GPO, PDQ deploy, any traditional package management tool. On Mac, we'd see Jamf. On Linux, it gets a little bit more complicated, but we typically would see a chef deployment or other methodologies. Either way, once that cloud-based agent is on the machine itself, that machine is protected. Regardless of what network it's on, regardless of whether or not we're in the office or at home, we provide that protection. Each of these modules on the screen contributes to the outcome of Falcon Complete. What I will mention is that this is not a comprehensive list of every single module that CrowdStrike has available. That information is available on our website, but what I'm showing you here are the core functionalities that provide protection and business continuity for our clients. Each of these modules populate within the same user interface, and this is a dual tenant model in our managed service offering, meaning you as an end user will still have the same access to the Falcon console. You'll still be able to pull logs, write APIs, take advantage of this data in any way you see fit alongside our team. We are under contract and under warranty to manage this tool set and perform remediation for you. I'll walk you logically through how we take advantage of this tool. Falcon Discover is an asset inventory tool. The first order of business for our team is to understand what assets are live on your network and whether or not they are currently protected by Falcon. This is a IT hygiene or situational awareness exercise. In essence, we can't protect what we can't see, so we use Falcon Discover to understand exactly what's on the network and whether or not it's protected by Falcon. This tool set also provides application visibility. It will give you a running list of everything that is on that endpoint from an application perspective. If you have suspicious applications that you'd like to search for across the environment, you want to make sure they're not live in the environment, you can run that search and have them removed from the endpoints. I want to make note of the fact as I walk through this that everything that we do is scanless, meaning we do not need to kick off retroactive scans to find known bad on endpoints. The reason I bring that up is because I'm going to walk now into Falcon Prevent. This is our prevention engine. If you are using a legacy or next generation antivirus today, I can tell you confidently that Falcon Prevent is a suitable replacement one-to-one for any other antivirus product on the market. Our blocking functionality, as I mentioned, is scanless. Because we sit in memory, we're in the kernel space of the device, we are able to see every activity as it unfolds on the endpoint. We run files through a machine learning engine, and we run patterns of behavior through our cloud and what we call indicators of attack. For example, if we see an email come in from an external source, and an end user clicks on that email and it jumps down to the endpoint because or somebody clicks on a Word document that's attached to that email, it jumps down to the endpoint, and all of a sudden a macro kicks off and enables or opens up a PowerShell. That is a malicious series of events according to what we call an indicator of attack, and we will block that type of behavior without even having to scan for it. You can't scan for that type of behavior. Our prevention engine, as I mentioned, is a one-to-one replacement for any other antivirus out there. That being said, we will never be the firm, and I will never be the individual to tell you that our prevention engine blocks 100% of all bad things. It's not a claim any firm can make. So we have other measures in place. Primary being Falcon Insight. This is our endpoint detection response tool. It is extremely valuable from a CrowdStrike perspective to have our endpoint detection response data set in the same console as our Falcon Prevent engine. We want to know if something's been blocked, that we can immediately pivot and do, or excuse me, if something has been missed, that we can immediately pivot and understand how it was missed and what we need to do to remove the threat. This is 24/7, 365 recording of all activity on your endpoints, regardless of whether or not it is malicious. We're looking at all system processes, we're collecting that data, we're storing it. Now, we hand that data set over to most of our client base, and what they tell us is that they do not have a fully built out threat hunting operation internally. That is where the first of the two teams that come as part of this service step in on behalf of our clients, and that's Falcon Overwatch. Falcon Overwatch is a managed threat hunting team that works right alongside Falcon Complete. They are leveraging that EDR data on behalf of our clients. They are performing threat hunting. They are looking for advanced persistent threats. The example I like to use here is credential theft. Now, we can't prevent your clients, or excuse me, your end users from logging into a spoofed website and sharing their credentials. That happens often, and end users essentially are going to be our weakest links here. If an end user does pass off their credentials and those credentials are being leveraged on a local device with admin privileges, it's not likely going to be picked up by Falcon Prevent, but the data will be recorded by Falcon Insight. And then we have a team of human threat hunters looking for that malicious leveraging of credentials. They're looking for privilege escalation, lateral movement attempts. They hunt that activity out, and then they create alerts within the console. That team can go as far as quarantining files and stopping processes. And then they create an alert within the console, and it's up to either an end user or the Falcon Complete team to pick it up from there. In the Falcon Complete model, 100% of the time, Falcon Complete will pick up that alert. This is where we walk into our managed service offering. Not only are we monitoring and triaging these alerts, but we actually configure the tool for you. We make sure that it's configured within best practices. We make sure that we apply the appropriate postures and sensor update policies across your environment. I'll walk you through what that looks like here in the next couple of slides. But most importantly, if we see an incident, we reach out to the device using the same exact agent that we have deployed to stand up the rest of this technology, and we perform remediation tasks for you. The reason that we are able to be held under warranty by AIG, the third largest cyber insurance carrier in North America, is because of the action we can take on your machines. Because we can reach out and remove adversaries and stop their persistence mechanisms, this service has actually been underwritten by AIG in the form of the breach prevention warranty. This is not CrowdStrike money. I consider this to be the best third-party validation that we have as a company. Forrester, Gartner, IDC, you name the third-party consulting firm, we have great accolades in the market. But none of those firms are underwriting a policy that guarantees the efficacy of our service, and that is what AIG, the cyber insurance company, is doing. As I mentioned, I spend most of my day in the incident response practice. In the incident response practice, we do a heck of a lot more than just investigating from a forensic standpoint what happened within the environments. We assist with PR crisis management. We work with legal and breach coaches. Client notification is not exactly something that we do ourselves, but we help curate that client notification. We are very well aware of the costs that are associated with the breach. The dynamic of this warranty is not to cover 100% of the cost of any breach. The point here is AIG is putting their money where our mouth is. If we fail at our jobs, you have a bucket of spend to draw down from before you actually have to touch your deductible on a cyber insurance policy. So while this does not replace cyber insurance, it is incredibly beneficial to have this sitting in front of the cyber policy so you don't have to dip into your deductible. That being said, this service has been engaged since 2017. This warranty has not been successfully claimed yet. We are pretty darn good at doing our jobs. Moving forward, how do we actually accomplish this? How do we accomplish this outcome to a point where AIG assumes the risk alongside our clients? First and foremost, our team. I think the key point here for me is that we do not hire junior analysts. While everybody has to start somewhere, they likely should not start in a high-risk environment where they're responsible for remediating folks in their endpoints. So we only hire people with over 7 years of DFIR, data forensics incident response experience. We are a 24/7 shop, as I've mentioned quite a few different times, so you will always have analysts monitoring and remediating your endpoints. It might not mean much to everybody on the line here, but CCFR and CCFA certifications are required for an analyst to begin working within the Falcon Complete team. These are Certified Falcon Responder and Falcon Administrator certifications, meaning they are experts in Falcon, they are certified to use Falcon and respond with Falcon. The key value proposition for our managed service is that we do not manage multiple different tool sets. We don't have 30 tools in our bag that we need to be jacks of all trades or masters of none with. We are experts in Falcon. We are experts in stopping breaches and remediating adversarial behavior. The operating model is a document that we share with our clients upon onboarding. We're walking into a few of the operational aspects in terms of how we share, in terms of how we guarantee success for our clients or establish success. Our two key goals here are obviously protection and prevention. That's our value proposition as a company, but also business continuity. We do not want to roll out a service in your environment that causes a broad interruption, especially as we try to handle a dispersed workforce, outside of the home office. The operating model details the items here on the left. Just like any other partnership, communications are first and foremost for our team. We will establish what we call a call roster on both sides of this partnership. A call roster for your team in terms of who is a stakeholder, who do we reach out to in the case of escalation, who is involved in this partnership, and vice versa. On our team, you will have a full list of names and numbers to reach out to in the event that you need to escalate to our team. You will have a program manager who is dedicated to your service or to your particular instance at all times, a warm, breathing human body who you can reach out to via cell phone or email. As part of this service, as I mentioned, we need to ensure that we are effective and non-intrusive in the environment. So we will define your asset zones in a document called Appendix B. It's not a very good name. I didn't name it myself, but the whole function of this document is very valuable for our clients. There's a high likelihood you have end-user workstations that function and update differently, or at least should be functioning and updating differently, than a critical server that stands up business applications. We need to know about those assets up front. We need to posture those assets according to their risk, and then we need to operate in those assets according to your pre-approval, which I'll touch on here in the next slide. The last thing I'll touch on here on this slide is the incident handling playbooks. If you look down here in the bottom right, this is an example of how our team engages and performs work in your environment when we see an incident. Now, typically we would need an NDA to have this fully blown out and shared in a show, so we just share a screenshot here. But what you're seeing from the time where we see a detection in the console to the time where you receive a remediation notification in your hand, it is our exact workflow. You understand what we're doing to analyze and triage. You understand when we might need to escalate and loop in your team, and you understand when we might be performing remediation on your behalf. There is no question as to how our team operates. This is all documented and shared with you up front. These are customizable, and as your business grows and changes, we will grow and change with you. Now, I've talked about assigning risk to assets and posturing those assets according to their risk. Well, what does that actually mean? We have cautious, measured, and active postures in which our team functions. You define with which posture we are in. Now, obviously, we will recommend best practices. We'll work through posturing the environment. But once you tell us what posture we're in, we are beholden to the pre-approval that you have given our team. So in a cautious posture, for example, if you have a critical server that has seen an incident, we know that that server is in a cautious posture. We can investigate that incident. We can analyze that incident, but we are not able to reach out and remediate that device until we call you and get approval to do so. Essentially, we're giving you an opportunity here to maybe move over to a backup or perform remediation yourself. In the case that you want us to do response on that device, we will do it. You just need to tell us to get it done. And essentially, we can't operate until you tell us to operate in a cautious posture. In a measured or active posture, this is where our clients will see the most value out of our service. This is where we have been given pre-approval by our clients in any given case, regardless of time or day, to not only investigate and triage incidents, but we are able to reach out to the device itself using the Falcon agent, run commands down to the device, kill the adversary's processes, remove their persistence mechanisms, and report it back to the business. So that middle of the night use case, again, instead of us asking your team for assistance, pulling you out of bed, you'll just be receiving an email from our team because we are in a measured or active posture telling you that we remediated the incident. I will not let the asterisk on this page go unnoticed. I will bring up exactly what this means. In order for us to, or excuse me, in order for you to benefit from the warranty, we need to be in a measured or active posture. If we can't touch a device and stop an adversary in their tracks because we need to call you first, AIG cannot underwrite that risk. So in order for you to benefit from the warranty, the device itself needs to be in a measured or active posture. That being said, this is not an all or nothing model. You can have a small subsection of your devices in a cautious posture and the rest of your environment in measured or active, and you will benefit from the warranty in the devices that are in measured and above. Moving forward here, we're in the correct posture. We can perform our work. We're able to perform a remediation. We're doing this remotely. This is the report that you receive from us. This is, we can hold this up against the typical ask from a managed service provider, which is, hey, remove these registry keys, remove these scheduled tasks, or sometimes it's just go ahead and reimage the device. Because we have experts on staff who know how to perform a remediation, we don't need to reimage the machine. We don't need to cut the machine offline. We don't need to stop the end user from doing what they're doing. We run the commands up to our cloud. The cloud runs those commands down to the machine, and these remediation tasks are performed on the endpoint. In this case, we're looking at ersnif malware being remediated from a device. Now, in any given case, if Falcon is already installed on a machine, ersnif malware is likely going to be blocked 99% of the time. This use case that I'm detailing here is something we see very often where we deploy into a new customer's environment, we haven't been there before, and we recognize active running payloads because a legacy antivirus was not able to scan for it and find it. So as we deploy, we recognize nasty stuff in the environment, and we have to perform remediation right up front. And it happens often. In this case, for ersnif malware, we know what the payload looks like. It's not as simple as just removing the file from the device. We need to remove scheduled tasks. We need to remove registry keys. We have to quarantine different files that get left behind in different directories. We have to stop a particular process. We have the know-how to get this done. We don't have to do research up front to figure it out. We go ahead and run these commands, and we provide this deliverable to your team telling you exactly how we did it. Again, mitigating the need to outright wipe the machine and take an end user offline. Again, we can do this while an end user or a server continues to function. In this case, the only thing that we're going to ask of our clients is to reset their admin password. At this point, any malware worth its salt is going to perform a credential scrape. It's the main goal of an adversary to get credentials and establish a foothold in the environment. So as a persistence mechanism, they will scrape credentials, so we're going to go ahead and ask you to reset that admin password. That is the only ask from our team to yours. Other reporting that we do back to the business is more focused on executive metrics. I want to be very clear again that this is a dual tenant model. We do not hold this data hostage from our clients. You can go find it anytime you want within the console, but we curate it and share it by default on a monthly basis with a focus on executive reporting, rolling up to the business and telling people why we paid for this and what value we're seeing out of it. In this particular example, we're talking about the Falcon Complete team's performance. In this industry, in the incident response industry, it is imperative to move with speed. The concept of breakout time is essential to address an incident response. The more time that an adversary has dwelling in an environment, the more damage they can do. I like to use a physical security analogy here. If I want to break into somebody's house and make my way in, I probably can. Even if they have a door that's locked, even if they have a good alarm system, I can still smash a window. I can still kick the door in. I can drive my Toyota Tacoma into their garage if I want to. I'm in the house, but that does not necessarily mean I've had the opportunity to make my way around the house, perform reconnaissance, find valuables, and pack those valuables up and make my way back out. There are plenty of opportunities for people to find me, maybe the homeowner. There's a sad end to that story if you're here in the great state of Texas. Maybe the dog, maybe the police are waiting because a silent alarm has tripped. Either way, the point here is just because somebody makes it into your environment or your home does not mean they've had an opportunity to find valuables or find data and either lock that data down or exfiltrate it. So what you're seeing here is our average or overall response time in this given environment. From the time where we see and triage the detection in the environment to the time where you receive that deliverable outcome in your inbox, we're looking at just under 30 minutes here, about 29 minutes for us to curate that report and send it back. The industry average, according to Poneman, for incident response and remediation is just over 4 hours. So we're looking at a 3.5-hour delta from the industry average to get your machines back to normal and back to what we consider to be a stable machine. Now, these will vary for any given environment, but overall, globally, we are averaging just under 45 minutes. Now, the other bucket of metrics that we report on are going to be focused on environment health. What have you paid for in terms of sensors, and how many sensors are you using today? Are all of those sensors properly updated? Are all of your groups and policies properly assigned? And also whitelisting. We are able to, if you have given us pre-approval in a posture, we are able to perform proactive whitelisting. If we recognize that maybe an update in Adobe has kicked off, and in the unlikely event this happens, Falcon flags it as a false positive, just a goofy example here, we are able to proactively whitelist that executable or that hash or the file path for you. We will report it back, to the business on a monthly basis, and again, it will be in the console for you to see at any given time. This will be my last slide here. We're at 36 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time here for questions. As far as the onboarding process goes, it typically takes us between 4 and 5 days to fully onboard a client. This includes agent deployment. Because we are a cloud-based tool, because most of our clients do have the ability to centrally push out and centrally manage software, we are confident in saying we can get this done in under a week. Now, there are edge cases or larger cases where we see hundreds of thousands of endpoints. It's a little bit of a different story. But for most of the clients we work with in the range of 50 endpoints to 20,000 endpoints, we see a very quick onboarding experience. From the time we execute the contract, really all we need from your team is an onboarding call. You'll get on the line with our analysts and the program manager who will be responsible for the success of this partnership. We'll walk through in detail that operating model where we talk about communications, proper configuration that we do for you, roles and responsibilities, really hammer out and solidify this partnership. Moving into the actual technical aspect of the onboarding, all we need from you is to fill out what we call, as I mentioned earlier, Appendix B. You fill out the data in this Excel document. You tell us about your different asset groups. Sometimes people have one asset group. Other times folks have thousands of asset groups. Either way, we take the data from you. We walk it back into the console. We perform the configuration for you. Depending, again, on how long the agents take to fully deploy, we typically see about 4 to 5 days. Once we have that operation done, we have what's called a stabilization period, typically 1 to 2 weeks, where we get an understanding of the environment and ensure that there is no active malicious activity within the environment. Once that stabilization period is over, the warranty is engaged. AIG underwrites this service. The contract is signed actually between AIG and the client. And not only do you have improved protection from a technology standpoint, but you have a team of individuals managing that technology, operationalizing it for you, and it is backed from a financial perspective by AIG, the third largest cyber insurance provider or carrier in North America. That is where I will stop here. We'll leave it open for questions and answers. It looks like we've got quite a few here, so I will stop sharing and start with questions.
Appreciate it, Owen. That was great. Yeah, we do have a few questions here. So start with how do you protect Falcon intellectual property and customer data during a Falcon employee exit interview?
Specifically during an exit interview, that's interesting. From an employee standpoint, we all have incredibly strict non-disclosure agreements that go beyond our current employment with CrowdStrike. As far as customer data within the technology itself, what we are collecting is metadata, telemetry data. This is not file content. This isn't what we consider to be necessarily PII. But from a compliance and regulatory standpoint, we are able to stand in line with almost every regulatory agency with the data that we do collect. As far as collecting data or preserving the integrity of that, our customer data and intellectual property data with our employees, that's all written into our contracts.
And obviously backed by AIG, as you guys mentioned before. So.
Indeed.
This one goes along with that, Owen. What is the average tenure of a security specialist on the Falcon Complete team, and what are their typical backgrounds?
It's a good question. So we started this service in 2017. As far as turnover, I think we've seen maybe 3 or 4 analysts move on since I've started here. Our main analyst office is actually, or Security Operations Center, it's actually here in Austin, Texas, where I sit. So we are rapidly expanding our team to the tune of 5 to 10 analysts per quarter. As far as turnover rate, I don't actually have a statistic on that. So was there a second part of that question, Greg?
The typical background.
Oh, the experience. Typical background is going to be from an incident response team at a large-scale security operations center. The reason that people leave Fortune 100 or Fortune 200 security operations centers to join our team is because of the variation in events that they get to work, meaning it's less likely for them to get bored. We are creating a buzz in the security operation or security analyst world right now because the Falcon Complete Security Operations Center is deployed in 3 million plus endpoints. We have visibility into a wider breadth of incidents than really anyone else in the world right now, and analysts want a piece of it. So we're typically pulling from large-scale security operations centers. Oftentimes we have customer security operations center analysts wanting to join our team.
Perfect. This is one that was actually answered in the Q&A, but I think is worth bringing back up. Someone asked about MDM solutions for iOS, Android, IoT type devices. I think it was framed around MDM. But Owen, could you talk just a little bit about that at a high level, but also the protection capabilities of mobile devices because mobile has become so prominent?
Yeah, absolutely. We do not have what's considered an MDM solution at CrowdStrike today, while we do have agents for mobile devices. What we provide in the mobile space today is our endpoint detection response functionality. So we have visibility into endpoints and the activity, or excuse me, iOS or Android devices. We have visibility and context around what's happening on those machines. I'm going to try to keep this as concise as possible, but I think it's important for me to address how we have developed the Falcon platform from day one. And it's all been focused around visibility. So when I started at CrowdStrike in 2016, we sold one module. It was called Insight, and that is the endpoint detection response tool. Insight was developed over the course of multiple years in incident response engagements as a mechanism to collect the most amount of data out of the kernel as possible. As we built out that endpoint detection response functionality, built out our cloud and our database, then it became feasible for us to begin building things like our antivirus, which we built in 2017. So first came visibility, then came protection, then came the other, all the other functionalities that we have available as a company. The reason I tell that story is because the same concept applies to the development cycle of mobile. We released our mobile agent in 2019, so not all that long ago. And right now, we have the collection mechanism. We have the agent. We have the ability to pull data and store it in the cloud. The next phase of development will be to begin building preventions and other valuable modules on top of it for our clients. It's just earlier in the development cycle today.
Okay, another question here. How many other security vendors do full remote remediation besides CrowdStrike?
As of today, and this is a bold claim, but as of today, there are 0 competitors in the space that I am aware of that are able to remediate the way that our team remediates. There might be smaller shops, niche shops, or local shops that can take a crack at the way that we leverage our tool set. But in the broader, larger space, there is not another firm that remediates the way that we do, that I am aware of as of today.
Okay. Good question here. If my organization was looking to hire someone to be dedicated to security, what are some major reasons why Falcon Complete would be a better decision or option than hiring somebody?
That is a great question, and it's actually a way that we typically, throughout an evaluation process, it's a good way for us to position cost to CFOs or CEOs or leadership in the organization. While we don't by any means intend to replace anybody's present job in an organization, we position it as something as making a security analyst's life easier. We oftentimes can address the reasons that people are trying to hire analysts in that they need to build out a larger team to support a 24/7 function. If you were looking for an analyst to cover all of the above and monitor network, email, endpoint, every single speed and feed that you can possibly think of, you might still want to hire that analyst. They just won't have to focus on the nitty-gritty tasks that our team focuses on. But if you're intending to build out a 24/7 operation because you're afraid that you can't remediate incidents on a 24/7 basis, that is a great reason to consider our service instead of that hiring model.
Okay, here's a good one. Obviously must recognize that the solution is very impressive, very comprehensive. What would be what would be the reasons organizations do not use or go with Falcon Complete? Kind of reworded the question a little bit, but that's the gist of it. Why would someone not go with Falcon Complete?
So I'll touch on that from two angles. First, in about I call it Fortune 50, we see teams who have capabilities built out the same way we do. They have a 24/7 operation. They have analysts who know how to use the Falcon platform 24/7, 365. They have a model built out where they can provide this outcome on their own. And that typically is a team of 40 to 50 analysts who are dedicated to this. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of endpoints. On the other side of the spectrum, where we're looking at reasons that people in SMB or medium to large business or even the enterprise space, it's because of cost. Cost would be I'd say really the only reason that we do not implement Falcon Complete for our clients. That being said, we do have many different efforts internally to help clients realize the value and partner with us regardless of cost. So cost would be the number one reason.
Yeah, in our experience, as we went through it, Owen alluded to a number of different, options available throughout the stack with Crowdstrike, and where cost is an issue, sometimes we'll start with the technology itself and then grow into the full Falcon Complete offering with a managed services component as well. Owen, you want to touch on that and how you might start one place and then evolve the solution?
Yeah, absolutely, and it just speaks to the modularity of our platform at large. You are able to pick and choose different modules that you deploy within your environments. So it's not an all or nothing approach by any means. And I'll use a real world scenario for you that we deal with on a daily basis, where clients call us for an incident response. And the client actually does not need a forensic investigation. They don't need to provide a report to a lawyer or to an insurance firm or anything like that. They just want that incident cleaned up, and they want to make sure it doesn't happen again. In those cases, what we're able to do is deploy our antivirus engine into that environment before we even have contracts squared away. We have a free version of our antivirus. So we'll deploy the antivirus pretty much the moment that our client calls, hit a button and give them Falcon agents. They have just the antivirus on the box while we work through the contracting process. And then from there, once we're purchased or they have purchased, we're able to engage the rest of our tool set and build it into their same user interface. Now that is an extreme case, and again, we see it often, but in just a normal, what I consider to be a standard environment that isn't quote unquote hot, you can function off of that same model and implement as the budget allows. We also see that happen. It's not the ideal scenario, but it's absolutely an option for our clients.
Yeah, we found that the endpoint solution by itself is extremely competitive price-wise with any other endpoint solution in the marketplace, despite being what we consider to be the best technology in the industry. Obviously, with the full managed services component, it can be a bit more, but based on that initial slide that Owen went through, if you look at the total value that it's delivering, it's significant. When you think about the fact that it could replace the need to hire security analysts and things of that nature to run a 24/7 security operations center, then obviously the value is tremendous. So.
Indeed. One more thing I'll touch on there, Greg, just to add. Many of our clients who are working on budgeting or procuring Falcon, it's a consolidation effort from a technology standpoint as well, whether it be vulnerability management tools or firewall management functions. We have all sorts of different ways to consolidate the tool spread or the agent spread that you already have in your environment into our platform. So there's also value in that, and we see success there as well.
Okay. Here's another question. Can your host firewall push threat or vulnerability information to edge next-gen firewalls to be leveraged by the IPS?
Indeed. And I think this will also address I think I saw an API question in here. We are an open API provider. You can take Falcon data and implement that data anywhere that you'd like as long as it accepts the API. We see integrations with SIMs. We see integrations with next-generation firewalls. We see a slew of different use cases as far as our API goes. For next-generation firewalls, I think the most valuable thing that we provide to those tool sets would be the threat intelligence through our detections. So as we block things, we have a way to automatically sandbox that executable or that file. We run through that sandbox, and it provides us with sometimes hundreds of IOCs that can be fed into, for example, Palo Alto next-gen firewall. So absolutely yes, and it just speaks to the broader API use cases that we have as a product and service.
Okay. And I think we'll close out with this question. How many times has CrowdStrike given out the breach prevention warranty to organizations who've been breached under Falcon Complete? I think you covered that a little bit in the presentation, but I think it's worth reiterating.
Yeah, absolutely. The breach prevention warranty has not been paid out since it was implemented in 2017. And there's one delineation I really want to make that very, very importantly in that statement, and that is that it would not be CrowdStrike paying out that warranty. It would be AIG. Because again, this is not CrowdStrike saying we'll pay for it because we messed up. It is AIG underwriting the service. So as of today, we have not done it. We have not done it yet.
Perfect. I think that wraps up the Q&A. Hopefully through the event, you've seen that as I mentioned at the beginning, CrowdStrike's not only a great product, but it's all the surrounding services around it that really differentiate it and make it very, very unique in the marketplace. Wanted to just mention that we've done a number of cybersecurity focused events because cybersecurity is such a hot topic for folks right now. We've got continued feedback that that's a lot of the content they want to hear about. So we've got an event coming out next week related to the dark web, and we're actually in the process of forming a series of cybersecurity webinars that are around things like strategic planning, tabletop exercises, which includes things like running actual tests, going through the paces of what would it look like if you had a vulnerability within the environment and you need to recover. Oftentimes we find our clients are doing disaster recovery testing, but not testing out their plans for response from cybersecurity attacks. So tabletop exercises, Owen mentioned a number of times incident response. So when and if you do get breached, where do you go from there and how do you recover? We'll be looking at some of the security frameworks like NIST and others, as well as touching on compliance and those components. So it'll be very educational in nature, and the idea is for it to be a webinar that we offer once a week for it's looking like a series of 3, 4, 5 weeks. So we hope that provides great value to you guys. We're kind of putting the finishing touches on that now, but we'll be back in communication as that comes together. So with that, over to Jessica.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you all for joining us on today's webinar. As a reminder, the recording link for today's session will be available to all attendees 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you did enjoy today's session and would like to hear more, we do offer new webinars weekly. Please check back to our DataVox website for more information on those. And as always, we'd love to hear your feedback on our events. Once this webinar has ended, you will be redirected to a survey page. If you could please fill out that survey for us, we would greatly appreciate it. That is all for today's session. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again to Owen and the Crowdstrike team, and we hope you have a wonderful day.